Welcome back to the channel. There have been lots of questions in response to my Ring doorbell video just recently, so I thought I would address some of those in this video here, partly to allay some of your fears, but also to reinforce some of the concerns. So let's get into it. But first of all, if you're new to me, I'm a barrister who helps you understand law. So I'd really appreciate it if you find this video interesting to boop that like button and subscribe at any point you feel like it during this video. And just as a heads up, this video is sponsored by NordVPN, but more about them later. Let's get into some of the questions. So first of all, a lot of people are concerned about this expectation of privacy in a public place walking past a Ring doorbell. So just to be clear, in my previous video, I did not say that anyone has a right to privacy walking past your house and captured by a Ring doorbell. However, it doesn't stop there. So let's be clear, someone walking past your house who is incidentally captured by a Ring doorbell or a Nest doorbell or any other kind of doorbell that captures their imagery do not have the right to remain shrouded in darkness, as the court once put it. They have no absolute right to privacy because, as many people have commented, they are in a public place. So that's absolutely right. However, it's not quite as simple as that. I'm going to refer to a paragraph of a judgment in just a moment, which helps you to understand what the court's view was on this. But in short, it's summarised as follows. If you are capturing someone on your CCTV, including Ring and Nest doorbells, data protection law does apply, and there are several principles. You need to have a legitimate basis for collecting information, storing information, and there's a data minimization principle in that you only capture what is necessary and store it for as long as is necessary, and so on. So whilst some people have taken this to mean that you can't capture people walking past, that's not quite what I said, and that's absolutely not what I meant. People walking past your house don't generally have a right not to be captured by those cameras, but it depends where the cameras are pointed and what exactly it is that they are capturing. And of course, they will be entitled to make a data subject access request if they believe that you have recorded and stored their imagery walking past. However, turning the discussion to cameras that might be pointed at a side gate or a car park or overlooking a neighbour's fence or something other than just them walking past your front door, let's say for example it captures their front door and there could be a reasonable way of avoiding doing so, let's refer to paragraph 135 of the Fairhurst and Woodard judgment, where the court decided to take this as a test case to explore various issues, because these overlapped harassment, nuisance and data protection law, focusing obviously here on the data protection aspects, which apply whether you capture somebody legitimately or not. Paragraph 135 reads, in relation to the driveway camera, which was trained on the claimant's property, including her side gate, garden and her car parking spaces. Pausing there, this covers a lot of questions in the comments about what if it captures X, Y and Z. So if it captures somebody's side gate, their garden, parking spaces and so on, other than just incidentally walking past your front door, this paragraph will apply. It goes on to say, I do not consider that the defendant has satisfied me that this is necessary for the purposes of his legitimate interests. The legitimate interests, of course, being protecting his property and detecting crime. The driveway camera only collects data outside the defendant's property. It does not view his cars or shed or anyone approaching his property from front or rear. It is not legitimate for the defendant to carry out video and audio surveillance of a road leading to a car park used by others in which he maintains 2 parking spaces, when his cars and property could be protected in a lesser way that does not sacrifice the privacy of the claimant and the other users of the driveway. For example, by a camera that does have a close focus only on the cars in his parking spaces. The defendant says that he could not afford a camera with a more restricted view, but he puts no evidence about the cost of any such system before the court, which presumably, as an audiovisual specialist, he would not find difficult to do. And as I said previously, just a brief interlude to thank my sponsor for this video, NordVPN. With all the talk recently of data protection and security online, I genuinely use NordVPN. I've paid for it myself for over 2 years, so that I can be assured that my location is not being tracked, my data is not being intercepted, and NordVPN keeps a lookout for any data leaks online, including usernames and passwords. Nord doesn't slow down my internet connection. I do a lot of uploading to YouTube, obviously, with large 4K files. It doesn't slow that down at all, and there are absolutely no logs kept whatsoever. Nord has a no logs policy, so it does not log and track your activity whatsoever. For those of you that don't know know what a VPN is or why you should need one, it stands for Virtual Private Network, meaning it protects your connection to the internet. It funnels all of your computers or your phone's connections with the internet through an encrypted tunnel of data. So it protects your online identity, your data, all through the power of encryption. This is particularly important if you are out in public, in coffee shops, using and connecting to public Wi-Fi networks, because all of your data will go through their network. So if you would like to try this out, there is a unique link in the description below and on screen. This is my unique link. You can get a bonus 4 months using my unique link. If you change your mind later, you can cancel it with a full money back guarantee directly from Nord. But I believe that once you turn this on and connect, which is instantaneous, you will feel better with that peace of mind. So check out the link in the description below to get your 4 bonus months. Thank you for allowing me the time to thank my sponsor. Back to the video. And so broadly speaking, if these cameras are capturing other areas, which include side gates, car parks, and other areas of someone's property, watching them come and go, especially if it's with both visual and audio, the court took the view that this was a breach of the provisions of the Data Protection Act and the UK GDPR. Particularly in respect of the audio, the court took great issue with that because the audio was quite intrusive in that it would overhear conversations in people's gardens and so on and so forth. So just to allay the fears, if you have a Ring doorbell and people are walking past, that is fine so long as it's not monitoring someone else's front door, side gate, sheds and car parks and so on, and just incidentally capturing people walking past. But as I said in my previous video, if you are capturing and storing that imagery and indeed audio recordings, then data protection legislation is engaged. So what I said in my previous video, which I'll reiterate now, is if you have a reason to capture that information, you really should write down your reasons. Say, this is my legitimate reason for using this device, and put signs up that tell people that they are being recorded if they are walking past. And if they ask you and they make a subject access request, that you provide that information. To deal with another one of the questions, what if someone makes a data access request? How can you know whether you've captured them or not? They would need to be reasonably precise. They can't just say, tell me at any point in the last 3 years whether you've captured me on video. They would have to narrow it down and say, one of these 2 or 3 days I might have been captured, can you please check? And if so, can you please delete it? And under data protection legislation, you would need to comply with that because they are captured and stored on your cameras. And again, and just to reiterate, cameras at your home differ somewhat to being out and about in public and incidentally capturing people there, because your camera is a fixed and monitoring surveillance device, effectively. So whilst people don't have the right to privacy walking past your house, it certainly does engage data protection legislation. Dash cams in cars and walking about filming in public are not quite the same thing because again they have no absolute right to privacy in a public place. This does all depend on the facts and circumstances. There may be situations that do give rise to a reasonable expectation of privacy, even in a public place. But as I said, that's why it always depends on the facts and circumstances, and these are just general guidelines. And just before I wrap up, one of the other questions/comments was whether a neighbour is deliberately causing damage and vandalising your property and coming over the fence. If you were to write that down as your reason for capturing part of their garden to illustrate and evidence that they are indeed coming over and vandalizing and damaging your property, that might be your legitimate reason for doing so. Just remember that at any stage, if you are called into court to explain yourself, rather than just outright assert that they have no right to privacy and you have the right to record, it's far better to have a concise, contemporaneous note to say, on this, and this date, the neighbours did this, and this, and I reported it to the police. And for those reasons, my cameras are now trained to include part of their garden so that I can gather evidence if they are doing that again. But as I said, everything has to be proportionate and legitimate, and you have to be able to justify it. But as long as you write those justifications down and you keep a record of them, you'll be able to back them up and justify them later. So I hope that helps to address one or two of the questions. No doubt there'll be more, and no doubt there'll be some that I've missed. So do prompt me in the comments below. Make sure you like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.